When you see value in all directions, you add value in all directions. Accenture, let there be change.
Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome both our in-person audience and virtual audience to track 4, not track 1, track 4, translating data into actionable insights. I'm Lakshmi Randall from Informatica. I'm a co-track producer and moderator for this session. Our session this morning is the power of gender diversity in AI, building a new pipeline of future leaders. Gender diversity is a transformative force. It is essential in today's work environments, not only for the sake of reputation, but also to improve your bottom line. Our speakers today will share their personal stories from their career development and lessons learned, including how they tapped into the support system in their organizations and how they broke their barriers to gain leadership positions in their companies. A few housekeeping details. I know Robert already shared some housekeeping details. This session is being recorded and it will be made available part of your symposium proceedings with your registration. There will be a Q&A at the end of the session. Our virtual audience, please submit your questions via the Hua app Q&A tab. Our in-person audience, there are 2 microphones here for you, so you can ask your questions. You can use one of these microphones. I would like to introduce our speakers now. Our first speaker is Lan Guan. Lan is a Senior Managing Director at Accenture. Our second speaker is Emily White. She is Vice President of Enterprise Data Analytics at Nike. Take it away.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Lakshmi. Hey, everyone. I just want to, again, welcome you to the session. I know there's a parallel session that I also really want to attend. I think it's by Professor Davenport. The topic is about AI for data. So hopefully, at some point, AI will actually help us solve this problem so that we can be in both sessions. I really want to join that one, too. But I think that, again, I want to thank everyone for prioritizing your time. Okay, and this is such an important topic. I think Lakshmi gave a lot of very compelling reasons why we are picking this topic. And so before we dive in, right, I want to just quickly add to that. Okay, there's a very good. There are a couple reasons that why Emily and I are picking this topic as the basis of our speech, right, for this symposium. I think first and foremost, there are huge gaps. Okay, there are huge gaps in today's business in terms of gender diversity, and let me just quickly share one number. So one report, actually 2021 report from World Economic Forum, WEALTH, right, actually indicated in I think it's the global workforce, about 47% are represented by women. But if we hone into the space that we're all working, every day, right? Data and artificial intelligence, women representation is only 26%. So half, okay? So that number is striking to me. There's a problem there. On the other hand, I think the second compelling reason is, I know Emily will touch on that a lot, is for companies who actually is demonstrating the emphasis on gender diversity in tech and data in AI, they're actually seeing very rewarding returns. Okay, so this report published by one of the top consultancy, they actually indicated, right, top companies who are driving gender diversity, they're actually in the top quartile, right, of the gender diversity, gender balance in the tech and data space. They demonstrated 25% higher potential to have above average kind of profitability. So again, my point here is for companies who's paying attention to this, who's actually taking serious action, they're seeing rewarding results. And I think the third reason, of course, we're seeing clear linkage, right, between gender diversity. In fact, we should be talking about, all diversity, right? But today, because of a limited amount of time, we're focusing on gender. But my point here is there's a linkage between diversity and AI bias. There's just numerous examples, okay? The credit card companies, some credit card companies that actually offering, a lower line of credit to women, okay? That's in the press, right? We're also hearing, like, for example, there's a very large cloud service provider, I'm not gonna name that, right? They produce a chatbot using GPT-3. Okay, they are famous for large language models with billions and billions of parameters, but because of the bias in the large language model, right? In this case, the chatbot that they produce, every time when chatbot is getting the auto prompt of, oh, okay, my wife is starting a new job, and she's excited about becoming, and guess what? The auto complete is actually saying housewife. Okay. On the other hand, right? If it's the sentence of the auto prompt is my husband is likely to start a new job tomorrow, then AI chatbot in that case is actually responding, oh, he's going to be the head of finance. So again, the problem of that is because the person, the people, the team who's training that model is not diverse. Okay, the data is not diverse. So again, I'm just using that as an example. This are the problems that we're seeing every day. That's why I'm so thrilled, right, to be here with Emily White, who is not only my client, also one of my personal friends, to be leading this topic today. Okay, boosting gender diversity so that we can, be personally accountable for developing the next generation pipeline of talents in data and AI. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Emily. So Emily, I know you are the head of the data, right, in Nike. Obviously, one of the most lovable brands, right, on the planet. So maybe we start by maybe just have you sharing, right, what's your personal journey? What's your role at Nike? I know you're making significant impact, but what is your personal journey that you want to share with the audience?
Thank you. First of all, I couldn't help just noticing everyone in the conference room, the shoes you're wearing. So thank you for those of you wearing our Nike sneakers. Just love it. So personal story is I grew up in China, came to the States, and I am a software engineer by trade. My first journey was with a company in healthcare space. I learned so much about how to develop software in the enterprise level in the healthcare industry. Then I explored into, branched out into manufacturing, supply chain with a company called GE. Then curiosity brought me wanting just learn more in a completely different space, is in financial services. And then it's just the life journey came with Nike came to, at the inflection point, which was at the point I really was looking for career-wise, what is important to me. And what Nike's vision to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world, that resonate with me personally. And it also at the career time, I was really looking for not just for a bigger, better role, not just for working for another company. I was really looking for how can I leverage my skill at the same time, work, in a space that I do what I love, and it's actually from outside in, inside out. It all resonate. And so I've been with Nike for the past a little bit over 2 years. It's a great journey, just absolutely love it. And through AI, through data, we respect our consumers' privacy. At the same time, we want to be more connecting with our consumer one-to-one. We want to help you at the personal level and get you out there and play sports. And in the end, be happy. And when you're happy, you will bring innovation and inspiration in everything you do. So that's my story and my journey.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. So I know, Emily, if I can dig into that a little bit, I think you're glossing over some of the details, right? Which I think is important for the audience to hear. I know your journey starting at Nike was a little bit more intentional, right? You did not just bump into this. You did not just say, okay, now I want to make this change, right? I think something that in the conversation that we had yesterday, which struck me, you were saying that the moment that you decided to take this role at Nike was simply because you want to get out of your comfort zone, right? There's that kind of goosebump moment actually, help you make that decision, which kind of remind me one of the, mantra, one of the points that I always make, to my team is there's something about like if your dream is not big, it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough, right? When I heard Emily's story, kind of remind me of that. So can you just expand on that a little bit, like? What were the challenges that you are anticipating? So I think that's important for our audience.
Thank you. So for me, I get asked a lot, how did I get to where I am here? Honestly, I don't know. Is when there are things, opportunity come to me. I've been trying to figure out how do I answer this question, because literally, I really wasn't trying to go out, find a company, what's my next, and what's my career roadmap. I did not do any of that. But what I did do is when opportunity came, and first and foremost, I assessed, like, whatever this role, do I have the fundamental foundations? And if I do, then I ask my question, do I feel scared about this role? Meaning, like, do I know that field? If I already know, I just feel like it's kind of boring because I've already done it. So when each and every step, when opportunity came, is especially for Nike, I never been in the consumer space before. And it's just scary, and at the same time, it's exciting. And I know, Lan, just now you mentioned about women in AI, and for any person is in AI, in leadership, is how there's a term called how you break the ceilings. I actually think it's not external, is how do you actually allow yourself be out there? How do you overcome that barrier, like you set for yourself? Because at Nike, and we believe the distance between you and your potential is far more than distance between you and your competitor. And I know I work at Nike. I say this about Nike a lot, but this is in my blood, is everything Nike's taught me past 2 years is everything I believe in. It's an idea that how do you figure out it's okay you're afraid. It's okay you're the only one. It's okay you didn't have a good day. And just treat this as a science experimentation. We're in AI. How do we do AI? We experiment. And then we collect data, and then we iterate. Why not experiment with ourselves as a product? Go try, whatever that is. Test it out. Okay, it didn't work. Well, that didn't work, proved. You go try another one. So to summarize, is give you permission, give yourself permission. Looking at the journey where you are onto, how do you widen out your option? So in AI's term is, how do you look at all your parameters and widen out your attribute? You have been focusing on those 5 variables. It didn't work. And as scientists and in data space, we try different scenario. So just do that.
Yeah, that's very, very, very interesting. I think that my takeaway here is fear in some cases, fear, right, can actually lead you into the next, frontier of a potential. I think that's what I'm picking up from your story. But obviously that's not easy, right? When we talk about fear, when we talk about uncertainty, even in the AI space, a lot of people are, scared, right? So I'm sure your journey has not been a smooth sailing, right? So I want to hit on the next topic, which is failure. So fear, failure. You guys may be wondering, oh, what session am I getting into, right? But to me, this is the crux of the conversation. This is not an easy topic, okay? So maybe I can quickly tee it up, right? When I think about my career moment, right, my career journey, there are multiple failure points. I'll be very blunt, okay? Like for example, one of the failure points I always talk to people about is at the early stage of my career, right? I was super technical. I'm sure a lot of people are, having that kind of moment too. Oh, should I be technical? Should I be business? What's the perfect mix? I had the exact same struggle. I was super technical, and then I was, getting into the client meeting, throwing out all kinds of technical jargons because I thought that's going to be impressive, right? And there was actually one meeting that I had with the head of marketing at one of my clients. He basically gave me the feedback at the end of the call. It's like, you totally lost me. I was like, okay, I thought that was one of the best, technical conversation. So, but I took that lesson, right? I considered that as my failure point, and then actually the client was very nice in, to actually walk me through, okay, what's the business context, how I will be able to leverage that in my technical conversation. I learned so much from that. Okay, so I want to use that as my example of the failure points, and then I want to turn it over to Emily to say, okay, can you share with the audience what is the most memorable, right, important failure points along your journey that you want to share?
Wow, thank you for being vulnerable and share your story. Gosh, I have way too many, so I cannot even think of like 1, 2. Literally, I feel is it happens every day, and there are so many moments. For instance, I have all hands with hundreds of people on my team, and sometimes I in the moment said something, and then afterwards it's like, darn it, why did I say it that way instead of a different way? So communication is is how the words matters. So that's I call it small failure, but it is, for those of you who read the book Shoe Dog, I believe what's in there is said is, you want to fail forward, you want to fail fast, is back to what I mentioned earlier, is how do you look at what we call failure? I like to call experimentation, is, there's positive and negative outcome, and they're all good. They're all great. Negative outcome means, narrow that out. Positive outcome, just because you have hundreds of negative, now you arrive here. It is, instead of giving a specific failure point, I have just really, with the mindset is every day, today, this morning, or this month is completely okay and mess up. And how do you do to move forward? And then I know I didn't directly answer, like, what is the biggest failure? I actually couldn't think of anything like, a major failure, but it's really when there's negative outcome happened, it helped me to change direction. I can give you one, specific example. This is when I was with GE Transportation Days. I was implementing a large multi-year, global, multi-phase, multi-year ERP implementation. So for those of you who don't know, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. All it is about how do you implement a automation system for supply chain, and so that you can track what's going on within your company from transaction to financial point of view. And so I led the whole, hundreds of people implementation. The first phase, we ran into hiccups, and we did all the homework. And I was so sure that when I go to present to the GM and CFO, that, hey, we have a problem, this is how we're gonna mitigate the problem, and we have a way forward. But the outcome was, coming out of the meeting, everybody at the C-suite was not happy, and I didn't understand why. Afterwards, the GM and my CIO called me. Emily, did you know what went wrong there? I did not know. What went wrong was all the senior leadership was the first time hearing this. So the learning for me was, it doesn't matter what you did right or wrong, is how do you embrace everyone, engage everyone into this journey, so that it's not necessarily about people find out as a surprise, is you have set out to do something. And then there were a period, there's no communication, and then we showed up. It's like, okay, we hit a hiccup, and we have a plan. But the rest of the leadership team had the mindset of, we're gonna hit this date, and why it didn't happen. So back to the communication again. So as we, in data science, in AI, in tech, or in anything we do, is how do we keep the communication channel both sides, so that what you see is what your stakeholder, your customer, your clients see the same way, and they might have a different point of view to help you to solve this, or they might look at, oh, you have this problem. Well, today that's not the highest priority anymore. So back to failure point is, if I were to summarize, a lot of it has to do with human. It's not artificial intelligence. It is actually the human part of it. How do we actually just be human? And how human each other, how do we get to know each other, is communication.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. And I think I pick up a couple things, right, for the audience. First of all, failure is not scary, okay? Don't take that out of your vocabulary. I think that's both for men and women, right? So especially for people in AI space, failure is a norm, okay? Because it offers so many options. When you have options, you likely will be making choices. When you make choices, you may not make the right choices in the first place. That's what I'm picking up from Emily's story, right? So far it's been a little bit of, we talk about fear, we talk about failure. You guys like, what are these two people talking about? But I think it's important, right? Let's elevate this a little bit, okay? Let's talk a little bit on the brighter side. I think something that obviously Nike AI is doing amazing things. We can be talking about metaverse, we can be talking about digital twin, we can be talking about NFT, we can be talking about, circular economy, everything that your brand is doing. But today we focus on diversity. I know also your team is doing some amazing things, recruiting, talents. Right, so I heard some very unconventional techniques that your team has been using, experimenting to bringing people with very diverse background to grow the next generation of leaders in Nike. Can you touch on some of the highlights?
Absolutely. Actually, talking about people, talent, this is one of my favorite subjects. And before directly answering the question, I would like to level set. So we talk about people, and anyone in this room or on the virtual world, do you know that the average people on Earth today, your IQ, if you were to go back in the 1900s, the average human's IQ is at above 90 percentile of in the 1900s. Point I'm making is I am assuming, most people in the AI space, or you would consider yourself at least IQ level is average today, right? And that means every single one of you are genius. So let's just put that aside. If you know you're genius, then when you go hire people on your team, would you still have to have someone have bachelor degree, master degree, PhD in certain field? Just think for a second. If you know everyone is at the genius level, you could teach them. And now, then someone would say, well, I'm not sure if this person, want to learn. Well, we all born, just imagine every one of us came from babies. And tell me, if you see any baby from the moment they were born to now we grow to adult, can't speak, can't read. Every single human on this earth have the capability of learning. So with that, then what's a word? Aperture, or your aperture, your scope of go out, find people in any space is widened. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So with that, I have folks on my team here supporting me. So when we go at Nike, when we go recruit people, that's a mindset for my team we have. So we don't necessarily have to ask you, do you have to have a certain degree? Mm-hmm. What we're looking for is, are you curious? Do you want to know something new? Do you want to learn? And for those of you here, for those tuning in, if that answer is yes, email me.
I didn't mean to make this a recruiting call. Okay. Yeah, I just thought it was amazing.
We want you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we all talk about talent challenges. Who here doesn't have talent challenges? We all know, right, where they're going. We don't have enough PhDs, but I think Emily just opened, a brand new aperture for all of us, right? Growing the next generation talent. It's embracing diversity. And again, it's not about just diverse background in gender, right? Cannot, make it more clear. It's diverse background, right? It's the academic background. It's your training. It's the way of thinking. And that's what this is about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that story. I know that was a little bit unscripted, so I want to make sure that, what I heard yesterday, the audience have the opportunity to benefit from that too. So maybe we hit on the next topic, which is also very, very important, right? I think for the women, in the audience, hopefully you guys get, or even guys, right? You get some inspiration, right? So far, if Emily and I can do it, right? We can overcome so many failure points. All of you guys can do it, okay? But of course, we cannot just do that by ourselves. There's no way, right? Throughout my 20 plus years here in Accenture, I can name so many mentors, so many coaches, right, who have been helping me, in some cases giving me a couple kicks, right? So I want to hit the topic of mentorship, okay, because that's very important. Mentorship and networking. So I know in my case, there's so many different mentors. I talk about peer mentors. In some cases, you don't just want to go to your supervisors and can you be my mentor? That's not the only way of looking at that, right? Also look at your peers. In some cases, you could be finding situational mentors because you just have a very, acute kind of career question that you want to ask. So, but again, that doesn't come overnight. It's not like you can just reach out to someone and say, hey, can you be my mentor? And the person will agree to that, right, the next day. It takes effort, right? It takes a very methodical approach. So I want to turn it to, with that tee up, I want to turn it to, Emily to say, okay, Emily, can you share with us who is that mentor or mentors, right, that have been super inspiring, super helpful to you throughout your career journey?
Wow. Okay. There's so many, starting from early on in the career, I started with, I see, my first job, what I look up to is really my manager. And how my manager really was, is teaching me and showing me. I remember, this is my first job coming out of grad school, Cerner. My first manager was, for those of you learning everything at school, nothing is the same as when you're actually, coding. And you look at the actual code versus what you learned at the school. The project is day and night, is how my manager was able to help me to understand the different concept of software engineering. And that start from there, I learned, when I have questions, I don't want to just go ask to this one person. So I diversified with, there's simple questions I ask one person. It's just figuring out how do you not hug one person of all the time, is like, separate different questions with different people. That's in my early career. I see them as mentors. And then as I continue to build out my network, I seek out. So I'm going to use athletes analogy is, I'm a runner myself. When I want to run fast, I figure out myself, and after a while I couldn't get my speed up. So I would go talk to other people who run faster. So similar is, in career, I just look up to people in a senior level and ask them question. How did you, what did you do? How did you get to where you are here? And so is every company I work for, there's naturally build, whether you call colleague friends or mentors or allies, and then through that, I have people connect me with other thought leaders in the field. But if anything, if I have to name one mentor, one person, I come back to, at least now, the stage of my life is, I'm hesitating to share this or not. It is actually the 20 years future my own self. And I want to explain to you why I come to that is I when there's a decision need to be made, when there's a hard choices, when do I do this, do I not to do this, I'm at the point I want to see out and then come back and look at myself is, am I going to regret? It's not the things, I'm doing today. It's the things I didn't do I'm going to regret. So I don't want to disappoint my own self. And that is actually, how I interpreted be true to yourself. And that is the mentor is actually me. And as I continue to dig in and think through, we talk about leadership, and what I'm learning is leadership is not like you go lead others. Is how do you lead yourself? How do you dig in to find the higher inner self of you, and then actually action it? Let's face it, we all know what is the right thing to do. When you dig deeper, ask the 5 whys. It's really, do you dare to do? And so in summary, what is that one person is my mentor, is with all the mentors in my life, family, friends, and is, is just be true to myself. The future, 20 years future of me, and sitting here, would she be proud of me?
Yeah, no, that's so great. That's so inspiring. I think to me, just a very, very unique answer, okay? And that's why I want to make sure that Emily is sharing that, and thank you for opening up. I know this is probably one of the untold stories. So you guys are the first one who's hearing that from Emily. So inspiring. Again, mentorship, again, very hot topic, right? My takeaway is mentors could be everywhere, right? Mentors, in some cases, also nowhere, right? Mentor could even be invisible, because that could be the inner yourself. I think we should, I know we can keep going like this probably for 2 days, all kinds of topics, but we need to wrap. And I learned so much, even just personally, right, from this session. And I hope everyone, here and online have picked up some of the sound bites, some of the very, very tactical things that you can learn, you can use and action even just tomorrow. But feel free to reach out to either of us. I know Emily and I are very reachable, and would love to continue the dialogue with all of you right here or online.
A great discussion. Let's get the audience engaged. Do you have questions for the panel here?
Thank you. You have said that women representation in data analytics worldwide is around 26%. And I would like to ask Emily, what's the statistic you have in your team, and what are the activities that you've done differently to stay above that number?
It's a question for me, right?
Yeah, your team.
So, at Nike, we, if you read our 2025 report, we have a goal from DEI perspective, and that's set out at the Nike level. And for my own team, when we go out recruit, not only we open up our requirement, we also are reaching out, for instance, last night with my colleagues, we were talking about, I'm a sponsor at Nike for a program called Valerie, which is for women who have, who's, taking a motherhood break, and then we welcome them back. We have a 18-month program to help them get back in the rhythm and have a training program. So these are specialized, just one of many. And is how do we do? I really believe, I'm just doing my sample size here in this conference room. There's, less than 5. Maybe counting me and Lan, is more than 5 women here. And I really believe this is not just mine or Lan or the women who made it here's job. It is everyone's job. How I got here, partially is me, partially there's an opportunity, partially when I was interviewing for this role, I give it to, I'm thinking back, I give it to the interview panel, really saw the potential and believed in me. Mm-hmm. And that interview panel, I tell you, is more men than women. So it is not a company just can do, bring that number. So it is, let's all just do it. If you have a candidate you're interviewing, and if it's a woman, maybe it didn't check all the boxes, but I can tell you, unless, even me at this position, I still have the tendency, unless I know 100%, I wouldn't say it. Versus, I have 2 kids, a girl and a boy, and I see my son just like, okay, I don't know if it's just the upbringing for boys is more daring to try, and then for girls, I'm seeing my own family is my daughter has to get perfect, mm-hmm. And then we'll do. So it's just experiment. Even if you have a women candidate, maybe did check only 50%. Why don't you experiment? And maybe she just didn't, had a bad day and didn't being very vocal. So back to answer your specific question, how Nike, how our company do is really educating everyone and get out there is one at a time, yeah. One at a time, and just do it.
Yeah. If I can quickly may add to that, right? So I think, again, the point here is, Emily's great point is being intentional, right? If we don't even talk about this today, right? How do we expect that problem will go away? And I think again, me being in consulting, right? Management consulting, not technology consulting for so many years, this is a highly male-dominated, right, space. But again, I encourage all of my clients, right, current, existing, and future potential one. You guys, when you guys work with us, right, you should ask that question. You should demand that, right? If your company, your brand is placing this kind of focus on gender diversity, increasing diversity in the boardroom, you should command the consultants also bring the similar kind of focus, right? Similar kind of a diversity. Otherwise, that's not a way of doing business. It's all of your responsibility.
Any other questions?
Emily, you talked about creating kind of a culture of opening the aperture for talent and learning culture, experiment culture. But as I'm thinking about it, obviously that requires that there's an investment of time in the people within the company and the culture to actually help, elevate and coach and mentor. How do you, from a prioritization perspective, create that space and create that culture for the rest of the team? Like you said, the 50%, let's take a chance. How do we actually encourage people to take that chance and invest the time when everyone's so busy and lots of other priorities? Like, how do you create that culture of kind of coaching and mentorship within the team?
Okay, thank you. I really, appreciate the question. Is how, it's basically is easier said than done, and I tell you honestly, we don't have a perfect solution, and we are exploring ourselves. On my team, majority of folks do have the background in AI/ML, software engineering. And at the same time, we also have people in social science, in journalism, background in law. The culture is not something we say. It's really have to be something we do. It's not easy. It is freaking hard, very, very hard. We're trying to crack that code ourselves. But what we do know is you can't just sit still and talk about it. And what we do know is literally just do it and then, adjust and figure out what worked and what didn't, is keep moving. That is a key.
Thank you. So we talked about getting to the recruiting process and when the candidate's in the room in front of you taking the chance. We're going one step back further in Okera, and we're starting to look at the language that we use in our job descriptions. And we just started to kick that off last week, right? The inclusive language, making sure that everyone who is reading your job description feels connected to it in some way if they have that experience. Is that something that either of you have had?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We're job description, that's table stake. We're changing, and it is giving candidate the opportunity how they're reading it. Do they have to check, every single one of them? Yeah.
Yeah, same here, right? That's definitely what we are changing.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Thank you both. This is a question for both of you. I deal with a lot of CDOs, and it is a very male-dominated field. There are some exceptions, Verizon, yourself, other companies. But I'm interested in expanding upon the topic of if someone is curious, can they be developed? And so how do you see the market evolving in gender diversity is it going to happen by graduates coming out of schools, or is it going to happen more within organizations? Most of the time, I sell data, so most of the time when I talk to a CDO, they pass me to a market intelligence or competitive intelligence person. More than 50% of the times, that person is a woman, because marketing is slightly more dominated by women than men. And so I'm curious, do you think that gender diversity will happen from developing the people inside the company, or will it happen more through cultural change and university development and people coming out of computer science programs?
You want to take a shot at this first?
Whoa. Okay, I have to take a moment to think through that. Is the question for folks virtually was, where the trend for gender diversity, we can find the equal playing ground in the data field or in the CDO role. I like to even expand it out a little bit more, in the C-suite as a whole, in the boardroom. There's no crystal ball where it's coming from. When you start doing biopsy for the women CEOs, women where it made it to the C-suite, everyone has this unique story how they got to where they are. Even include leader as a whole. This is where instead of being specific, answer the gender one is where I'm putting my AI hat on. Is I'm looking at the pattern. Is not necessarily specific just for a gender. Is the pattern how you get to the the certain role, specifically we're talking about the C-suite, is how you are, from my point of view, is how you, dare to put yourself out there and try. So if that hypothesis is correct, then how do we, every one of us in a leadership role, or as parent, brothers, is how do we encourage the women in your life? Get out there, raise your hand, have your voice heard, try. And I think that would be my answer is, doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's just, starting today, all the men in this room, I know there's a woman in your life. And how can you, every day, encourage that person? Just get them to go try whatever they're doing. And imagine that.
Excellent
We will have an
response.
equal playing ground.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great. Let me quickly
Share
touch
your
on that
final
because this
thoughts.
is important, right? I think Emily just and talk about encouragement. This is everybody's responsibility. That's a great point, right? I think the other end of the spectrum, I think, answer your question more tactically, right? I think that we need to take the inside out and outside-in approach together, right? Outside-in approach, I think there are tons of programs out there, right? AI for everybody, AI for AI for all, for college students, for rising high school students, AI for immigrants, AI even for there's a Black AI program just focusing on African American background. So there are a number of AI for citizens, right? So I think we need to, all of us have the responsibility to nurture, curate, support, contribute to this kind of programs. So that's inside out. That's widening the future pipeline. But I also think it's that's outside in, right? Also inside out. To your point, right? There are certain business domains. The gender diversity is more balanced, right? So we need to believe in technology. We need to believe in the potential for all these people with a business background, maybe marketing background, maybe the supply chain background, leveraging technology so that they can actually bring their domain expertise into data and AI to become that notorious term of citizen data scientist, right? So that we can truly democratizing data and AI. Again, that's a responsibility on each of us. I just want to piggyback on Emily's point. It's all of ours. It's on all of our shoulders to actually make it happen.
Great final thoughts, Lan. Thank you very much. Emily, thank you. I would like to thank the audience for attending. Enjoy your day. Thank you.